Hi everyone, I'm Mikkel. I'm a coordinator here at the Fulbright Finland Foundation. And before Emmy starts talking to you about our grant opportunities, I will tell you a little bit more about our foundation. So the Fulbright Finland Foundation is an independent, private and not-for-profit foundation based in Helsinki. And we are specializing in academic and cultural exchanges between Finland and the US. We offer different services and trainings to support the internationalization efforts of Finnish higher education institutions. We also provide advising, training, and information services for students, researchers, and working professionals. In addition, we also offer numerous grant programs for different purposes. So the grant programs for research are not the only type of programs that we offer, and we also have other programs for students and for professionals as well. And every year we have nearly 100 grantees total. For our grant programs, we are always looking for people who want to be cultural ambassadors and future change makers whose projects have potential for large impact while building bridges between Finland and the US. Many of our grant programs are part of the Global Fulbright program, and the Fulbright program operates in over 160 countries, and in most it is administered by the US Embassy, but in addition to those, there are also Fulbright commissions in 49 countries, and they are binational, meaning that the program is jointly funded by the national government and the US government. And Fulbright Finland Foundation is among those commission countries, and we have very wide funding base since in addition to the governmental funding, there is a lot of funding coming from the partnership with different institutions. About most of the funding in Finland, most of the foundation's funding comes from Finland itself, not from the US in our grant programs. But now, Emmy, you can tell more about the programs.
Yes. So as Mikkel mentioned, our foundation offers grant programs for many different purposes, but today we will focus on the ones that we have for research in the US. So we have grants for all academic fields. There are some exceptions in medical sciences. So for example, projects including clinical training or patient care are not possible under this program. And then most programs are for Finnish citizens, so the citizenship is required. There is one exception for this, which is our short-term travel grant program that we will talk a bit more later. And one unique feature in our programs is that our grants are not traditional research grants, but in addition to the stipend, they also include many other program benefits. And for example, the comprehensive orientation training, including online materials, webinars, and one in-person orientation seminar here in Helsinki before traveling to the US. Then there's also supplementary accident and sickness benefit provided through the program, then free of charge visa for the grantee and accompanying family members, and this is in most of the programs, and then also support during the visa application process. And then personal advising services, so we have named program coordinators for each grantee, and then additional cultural program organized by our program partner in the US. So the Institute of International Education is our partner in the US, so they are organizing different enrichment activities there. And then, of course, a global alumni network. So the grantees have access to the network here in Finland and also in the US and globally as well. And it's important to remember that our programs always include a cultural exchange aspect. So our programs are not just academic or professional exchanges, but as we mentioned earlier, we are always seeking people who are interested in being cultural ambassadors and change makers and people who really want to make a difference and maybe tackle global challenges through their work and also build bridges between Finland and the US. And this is also the reason why all Finnish applicants are interviewed as a part of the selection process. And here you can see our grants offered for doctoral students for research in the US. So first we have the ASLA Fulbright Predoctoral Research Fellows Program that is meant for advancing predoctoral research in the US. And this program is open for all academic fields, and the maximum grant amount here is 18,000 US dollars. And these predoctoral research fellow grants are always cost shared with the applicant's home university, which means that the home university should cover half of the total grant amount. And this also means that the applicant can apply for this program only if their home university is participating in cost-sharing grants in this particular category. And you can find the list of the participating universities on our website, so it's important to check that information before actually starting the application. And there might also be some university-specific instructions, so remember to read the instructions carefully. So for example, the process is a little bit different for those applying from the University of Helsinki, Aalto University, and the University of Turku, who need to include their home university's statement already in their application. And then we also have a similar grant, the Fulbright Kaute Foundation Award, that is sponsored by the Kaute Foundation, and it's meant for doctoral students in the fields of business, economics, and technology. And in this category, the grant amount is the same as in the previous, but in this one, the home university does not have to cost share the grant because this is fully sponsored by the Kaute Foundation. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about the living costs in the US. As you might know, the living costs can be very high in the US, especially in certain cities and areas. And quite often the grant amount alone is not enough. So when preparing the budget for the application, remember to do some research already at that point and try to be as realistic as you can and find out also if you have any other funding sources available, for example, salary from your home institution or maybe some other grants that you could apply for. And then here you can see a list of our grant programs that are open for junior scholars. So for those who have completed their doctoral degree less than 4 years ago. And the first one is open for all fields. And then there are some fully sponsored awards for the fields of ICT, business, economics, and technology. And it's possible to apply for these sponsored awards directly by choosing the award from the application system, but we will also consider applications submitted to other programs, for example, to the Junior Scholar Program, if they are from these relevant fields. And in the application, it's also possible to mark an alternate award if you want to be considered for another award as well. So if you're applying, for example, for the Junior Scholar Program, but want to be considered also for the Kaute Foundation Award, it's recommended that you mark it as alternate award in your application. And then the last one here is our foundation strategic grant that was created to support our foundation's motto, which is Together Shaping the Future. And this program is meant for all fields, but the project should focus on a topic with current and global importance. And in this category, we encourage especially projects aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So in the application, it's important to clearly explain what the global challenge is and how your project is aiming to tackle it. And the last category is also open for professional applicants. So the scholar applicants are competing with them in this seeking solutions for global challenges category. And then here is one program for senior scholars. So this is for those who have completed their doctoral degree more than 4 years ago. So for more experienced scholars. And in this category, all grants are cost shared. So the applicants must hold a position at a Finnish university that is participating in the cost share program. So if you are applying for this one, then you should check from our website, from the list, if your university is participating in this category. And then here are 2 new awards for ICT and STEM fields that we wanted to highlight because these 2 are the newest additions. So the first one is for ICT fields, and this is in collaboration with the Nokia Foundation, and this is for research visits in any university or research institution in the US. And examples of the focus areas for this one are data science, AI, wireless and network technologies, and future microelectronics. So if you're from those and from ICT fields, then this one might be something to read more about. And then the second one is a university-specific award, and this is in collaboration with the Florida Polytechnic University. And Florida Poly is an accredited university in Florida dedicated exclusively to STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And they are interested in inviting visiting scholars from Finland to conduct research and also collaborate with their students and faculty at their university. And this is mainly for research and for a minimum of 1 semester visit, and as I mentioned, for STEM fields. And some general subject areas that they offer are computer science, computer engineering, data science, electrical engineering, environmental engineering, mechanical engineering, and autonomous vehicles. Yes. And then a little bit about planning the research visit to the US and what you should take into account when preparing your application. So first of all, you need to think about who you actually want to work with. And in almost all of these programs, you need an invitation letter from an inviting institution in the US. And this is already in the application phase. So it's important that you start thinking about this and contacting potential hosts already well in advance, because it might take a while to actually find the institution and get the invitation letter from them. And if you already have a potential host institution in mind, that's of course great. But if you don't, then here on this slide, we have some things listed, what to consider. And maybe I'm not now going through all of these, but you can see them there when we share the slides. But one thing I wanted to mention here is that every year we have about 40 or 50 US Fulbright grantees from different US institutions here in Finland. And they are also a great resource, as they have this vested interest in further developing the US and Finnish collaboration. So it's good to keep them in mind as well if you want to get some advice, or if you see someone there who's from an institution that you would be interested in visiting. And you can find their CV catalog on our website. So if you spot there someone with similar interests from your field, maybe, then you can let us know, and then we can see if we can connect you with that person. And then here you can see the timeline for the current application round. So the deadline for these programs is on October 1st this year. So there's still some time, but we highly recommend that you start preparing your application as soon as possible, because the process can be quite heavy. So the applications are submitted through our US program partners online application system, and there are quite many different documents that you should include in your application. So it's good to start compiling those documents as soon as possible if you plan to apply. And then during October, the applications go through a technical review, pre-selection committee review, and then also the home university and sponsor evaluation for those that are course chaired or fully sponsored by our partner organizations. And then some of the applicants will be invited for virtual interviews that will then be organized in mid-October, and then the final results are published by the end of December. And in May, then we organize an orientation seminar here in Helsinki for all grantees traveling to the US during the next academic year. And here we have a little bit about the evaluation criteria. So the applicants are evaluated by committees comprised of our alumni and other experts from academia. And our committees use this criteria in assessing the applications, the written applications, and then the interviews. So the first one here is the motivation for applying to the Fulbright Finland Foundation programs. As we mentioned, our programs promote cultural exchange and exchange of knowledge between Finland and the US. So it's really important for us to hear your motivation for joining the program. And then, of course, the strength of the proposal. So relevance, clarity, innovativeness, visibility, and then rationale for conducting the project in the US. And then very important, of course, potential outcomes and impact. So what's the impact for a wider audience, to the society at large, for the Finland-US relations, and also applicants' home and host institutions. And then academic and professional merit is also one criteria there. But you can read more about the evaluation criteria on our website, where we have listed more details about these.
Yes. So before we give the microphone to our alumni, I wanted to quickly mention also one short-term opportunity that we have for scholars. And this program is open for all researchers in Finland. And what makes it special is that it does not have Finnish citizenship requirement that we have for other programs. Unfortunately, this program at the moment is not open for applications, but the program is Fulbright Finland travel grants for research collaboration, and that is meant for short-term visits from 1 week up to 3 months. And the grant is maximum 4,000 euros, and it can be used for travel costs such as flights, accommodation during the visit. Next application round for this program is expected to open later in this year, and the deadline will be early 2025. But we will share information about this program when it launches on our website and also in our social media channels. But yes.
Yes. Okay, so I think now Mikael and we are ready with our part, but now we will have Ulla Hentonen to talk about her Fulbright experience. So Ulla spent the spring semester 2024, so last spring, at George Washington University in Washington, DC. So please, the microphone is yours, Ulla.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the introduction. So my name is Ulla, and I have recently returned from my Fulbright semester in Washington, D.C. So I came back at the end of June, and I am currently trying to readjust to life back home. So do you have the presentation here, Emmy?
Yes, I have.
All right. So just so I know what to expect. So just a few words about my research and what motivated me to go for the Fulbright semester. I'm working on a PhD project. So as a pre-doctoral scholar at University of Tampere, I'm working on a project on international relations and international security that focuses on U.S. foreign and security policy vis-a-vis North Korea. So kind of going to the US was a very natural fit. And a year or two into my PhD work, I realized that it'd be very difficult for me to complete my PhD without spending some time in a US institution for data collection. And that was kind of the first motivation that made me look into Fulbright. It was the idea of I need this data, I can get it in the States, and that's where it started. But that's definitely not all it ended up being. And so a couple of years into my PhD, I had the conversation with my supervisor asking his opinion on doing a Fulbright and whether that would work out with the cost sharing and all of that. And he was very, very encouraging. And of course, I've done my master's degree previously in a U.S. institution at Johns Hopkins, and so for me, the kind of the prestige and the how Fulbrighters and Fulbright are known among American scholars was very clear. So there was definitely that also attracted me to it, because I knew that kind of having that label and going into a U.S. institution as a Fulbrighter would probably pave the way for me and make many things easier, and they certainly did. So the few pictures I have here are just kind of the pictures that to me encompass much of my spring. So there was definitely a lot of sitting in my office at the Elliott School of International Affairs, me and my laptop doing very much the same things that I would have done for my PhD back home as well. But then there was also a lot of other things. So I ended up participating in all sorts of events, being very active in kind of science diplomacy circles, making lots of connections there, as well as then participating in lots of events that would not be possible for me in Finland. But about the journey there. So once I decided I want to apply for a Fulbright, I started looking into all the instructions and going into the info session, as many of you are doing now. And the first part, the kind of most intimidating part for me, was definitely choosing and getting in touch with a potential host institution. And since, as I said, I had previously studied in the US, I was thinking about who do I know, or who knows someone that I could ask for advice about the best possible fit as a host university. And ended up reaching out to an old professor who kindly was very excited about the idea of me doing a Fulbright and was very, very eager to share their wisdom and their thoughts on what possibly a good fit. So that's kind of where I started. There was someone who, of course, also just reading the academic literature in my own field, all of that, I had a good idea of which schools focus on the topics and themes and areas of expertise that would be relevant for me. But then, of course, there's much that you can't just find online. So getting them those few tips of someone saying like, hey, if I were you, I would look into these 5 schools. And so I studied there, and then I looked into the different institutes they had, the different programs. and kind of overall reading the profiles of their visiting scholars at the time, and getting an idea of what sort of a fit it would be. And I picked my two top schools that seemed to be the best fit, and wrote and rewrote and wrote a third and a fifth and a 10th time, trying to put together an email that I was happy with and I thought would be not too pushy, but still determined enough, and all of those things that I really easily get to you, or at least got to me. And then I decided to approach those two schools first. And I think that was the right call now in hindsight. While I was in the States, I heard many of the professors talk about how frustrating they find it when they are approached kind of just at random, or they get the feeling that people are just shooting out dozens of emails to any school and hoping that someone will take the bait. And so I would definitely advise against that. But then also I wouldn't necessarily put unless you have already an established relationship and you know they want you have maybe collaborated with them before, I wouldn't necessarily put my eggs in one basket either. So I think looking into like a handful of schools and then maybe planning a couple of rounds. I'm going to contact these couple of schools. If I don't hear from them within, I don't know, 3 weeks, a month, then I might look into kind of the next round. And so for me, I was lucky that George Washington University Elliott School, they have an institute for security and conflict studies, which was of interest to me. They got back to me within a few weeks saying that they were interested, and we kind of had a few discussions, and then they were happy to provide me with the invitation letter. And then on the other hand, the other school was a good example. They got back to me 5 months later out of the blue saying, oh no, we can't have anyone at this time. So in that sense, there is always also just the risk that you're kind of lost in the inbox. But I think Emmy did a great job at kind of bringing in the different aspects that you can think of in terms of finding a good fit. But I think a big thing is kind of focusing on people, and then access to resources as well that might be important for you. So from social sciences perspective, for me, definitely it was looking at a place where there are top scholars in what I want to do that I can learn from and that I can work with and build connections to. So that was definitely kind of a big thing for me. And then, of course, the next step is to think what makes me relevant for them. So especially for the US, kind of compared to Finland, I would say that don't be too humble. So make sure that you emphasize what your expertise, your background, the interesting things you've done, the articles you publish, whatever it is for you, and play that up. And the application process was quite intense. It took quite a lot of time when I was putting together the budget and all of those kind of additional documents. I was thinking like, whoa, well, this is a lot of work. And it was, but don't be discouraged. My experience was that it also definitely helped in actually planning my time in the US. Both the kind of the practical, I was very aware of how far my money would go and wouldn't go, but also in terms of what I wanted to get out of the semester kind of academically. So when you are in the trenches and struggling with that, remember that it will eventually pay off. And yeah, then the final tip for me on the application process is to, yes, definitely be realistic about the budget, as Emmy said as well as kind of all the things that you need to figure out how to make it fit you. If you're working in Finland as well, if you have a family, whatever it is, that be realistic, but don't be too discouraged by thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna have to figure out this and this and this. So when I applied for my Fulbright, I thought it would be all easy peasy. And by the time I got awarded my Fulbright, I was pregnant with my first kid. So there was a lot that I needed to figure out, but it was doable. We went the whole family, spent an incredible 6 months, and made it work. So kind of, and the support from Fulbright for all those practicalities, for the visa process, all the materials online are actually pretty great. So thanks, Emmy and team, for that. And then from the next slide, I just have a couple of takeaways, a couple of things that were most valuable for me on top of all the data that I came back with and all the connections that I came back with. So while I was thinking about just the pure data collection academics when going there, I realized pretty soon that the opportunities that I had to participate in events, meet scholars, meet people outside of my field that were really helpful for both my research, but also just opening my eyes to asking the right questions was really valuable. So I started making sure that for every week I had a few lunches and coffees and all sorts of things set up, so I wouldn't just get too deep into sitting in my windowless office and digging through the archives, which also was an important part of it, but definitely not the part that gave me the most. So think beyond your like immediate goals would definitely be something that I say. And yeah, stay curious, explore the area you're at. All the Americans will expect that you want to travel every weekend and see everything. That's not required. I bet there is a lot to do in the cities and around as well. So make use of that. And I also ended up participating in more events and trainings organized by both by my host university as well as by Fulbright that I was kind of expecting to, and that were really, really high quality and incredible, and that I wouldn't have had the time or the ability to focus on or access had I not been there as part of my host institution and that community. And then of course, yes, there will be, once you get through the application process, I hope many of you will, then there are those practical things that you want to get on top of, kind of researching housing, the prices, the other additional sources of income, all of those things that you don't want to be surprised by, but that are all manageable as long as you get to them early enough. So the pictures that I have there, just to highlight that there were other things other than research as well. There I am in my green dress officiating a wedding, which I thought was a pretty cool experience to fit into the 6 months. And there is my little baby turning 1 while we were in the US. So definitely also created lots of experience and memories that we will also hold as family and cherish for a long time to come, I hope. So good luck with all your applications, and hopefully you get to have as amazing an experience as I had.
Thank you so much, Ulla. Very nice to hear about your experience, both professionally and then also personally.
Yes,
but yeah,
eternally grateful. And I forgot to mention, thanks to Fulbright and the Fulbright event in Washington, D.C., where I was kindly invited, I also got to see Matt Damon in real life. So pretty cool.
Quite cool, yes. Okay, we'll take questions in the end. So if you have questions to Ulla, you can write them in the chat or then ask them later. But now I will give the floor to Joosua Virtanen. So Joosua spent 8 months last year in California at the University of California, Berkeley. So maybe Joosua, you can tell more about that.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Hope you can hear me well. So I'm Joosua. I'm a PhD student at Hanken School of Economics. I'm an economist, empirical economist, doing work in the intersection of entrepreneurship, innovation, and then also I have some projects in public procurement and studying various questions related to efficiency and sustainability and innovation, and also entrepreneurs, their personalities, and management decisions, and to mention a few. So this quite a bit of work I've been doing, and I applied to. I was awarded the Fulbright pre-doctoral fellowship to UC Berkeley, as Emmy mentioned, and maybe as the first question, maybe it's an obvious question to you guys who are scholars, but why go abroad? And to the US specifically, for me, it's quite clear. In research, by and large, generally, regardless of your field or your tenure, it's very essential to have international experience. And some of the best universities in the world are in the US, so it was quite a natural choice when I was given the opportunity to go to UC Berkeley to just take the chance. Well, without being too repetitive and to the previous very good points, I tried to highlight a few tips and tricks. I mean, there's so many things I could talk about, right? Well, I'd like to mention about one of the things about the application process that has not come up yet. I think, in addition to the purpose of visit, you need to have clarity in terms of what's the added value of the visit to your research that you would not be able to do without the visit. Of course, there's that. There's the hardship in getting the invitation letter. For me, that's, well, there's not a structured playbook on how to do that, as Ulla mentioned. For me, it was a bit of a combination of luck and good preparation. I noticed that a few UC Berkeley professors were actually visiting Finland, doing another project, and they were giving a seminar, and I went there actually. And after the seminar, I just went and talked with them and established a connection through casual chat, right? And at the end of that conversation, I kind of felt comfortable asking whether it would be possible for him to introduce me to a few interesting persons at UC Berkeley, and he was happy to do that. So I think the number one tip regarding acquiring that invitation letter, at least from my experience, is that establishing that first point of contact is very important. So a person who can introduce you to people, that always helps. If you're cold approaching people via email or so, it might be very difficult and you might not be as successful. But if you have some person who knows a person that might be relevant for you, that's a very good, you're very likely to get a response at least. And then the third thing, I think the letters of recommendation have not been mentioned before, if I recall. So those matter as well. So you would need a few of them. One preferably from your supervisor maybe, but I think, and it's my personal opinion, it would be very nice to have one already from the US. Why? Maybe two reasons. First of all, when Finnish, I don't know, professors or your supervisors write a recommendation letter, they're not maybe as literate and maybe, how to say, this style of writing the recommendations is very different for Finnish people compared to the US people. And since in the board of Fulbright, it's an international board who are assessing your application, well, they might appreciate if there's some point of contact already made in the US, but this is of course not required yet, at least in every program. So then maybe a few highlights of the actual visit. What did I really get from my time in the US and in UC Berkeley in particular? Well, I established a collaboration research project with a few peer PhD students at UC Berkeley Business School, Haas Business School. And there's nothing like a face-to-face meeting when collaborating in research. I mean, we already started the project a bit before I went to the US, and we met through Zoom and other meetings, but due to time difference and due to lost in translation through communicating via technology, we really experienced a bump in our productivity after meeting really face to face. So that's one good thing. And also attending the seminars, various seminars and courses they have there is the world-class university, and those are given by gurus in their field. And the quality of those is something I could have only dreamed of in Finland. So in terms of California the US is a big country. So California, especially in the Bay Area, definitely exceeded my expectations professionally. I mean, the ambition, the pace, the competence, they were unlike anything I've seen or experienced before, and for sure accumulated many lessons that we can learn from in the Finnish community. And I'm sure the same point applies throughout the country in some different areas as well. But I think most importantly, and also relevant for the aspect of the ambassadorial role, you as a Fulbrightee, is building the networks, right? So as Ulla mentioned, maybe it's a good idea to be very open-minded and attend everything possible that is even remotely relevant for you. And I think the chain effect of building your network is one of the key things here. If you maybe meet someone that is maybe not directly relevant for you, but he or she happens to know someone that is directly relevant for you, who could introduce you guys, that's very valuable. And again, the introductions seem to matter in the US kind of social networking, professional networking culture. So that's good to keep in mind. And generally, I feel like people are happy to help if you just ask them. And that requires a bit of a character that is not so typical for a Finnish person. First of all, a bit of confidence to go out of your comfort zone and go talk to a complete random person that you don't really know. That requires small talk first and foremost, and usually it requires a bit of elevator speech, right? You really need to think how to introduce yourself so that the person you're talking to kind of gets interested in the conversation, maybe asks a few questions. But even more importantly, I think asking relevant questions from the person you're talking to is very important, although she or he might be working in a completely different field. So trying to come up with interesting questions on the go is important. So, and finally, I think in the Bay Area, at least what I've been kind of taught there, people don't necessarily care too much about whether you come from top university or whatever, but they really care about your vision and how you display yourself and whether your project kind of makes sense and is ambitious enough. So be sure to be confident about what you do and believe in yourself. So that's a few tips. And finally, I'd say that peer support is very important. So I was fortunate enough to meet a few ex-Fulbrighters that are actually currently living in the Bay Area, and they were so super helpful. So be sure to reach out to any and all contacts maybe living in the vicinity of your visiting university. Thank you so much. I'm happy to take questions, or people approaching me via email later. I'll put it in the chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joshua. And I think you had a really good point in the end, that there are many alumni here in Finland and also in the US who are usually very happy to help already when you're preparing your application, or then when you're selected and then preparing for your time in the US. So that was a really good point. But yeah, now we have time for some questions and answers. But before that, I think, Mikael, if you can stop the recording here,